saw a couple days ago, Skullgrim did a video on what katanas do best, and I have to agree with his video. His video was on drawing the sword, because he points out, you know, even on cheap katanas, you get a really nice saya with it that you can thoroughly move around. Whereas European swords, you can't really do that with them because a lot of them are in what they call a frog, so it's hanging off your side. And on top of that, some reproduction European swords nowadays, you don't get a sheath with them. So that's kind of like a drawback for those. But also European swords, as far as I know, I'm not an expert, they didn't make their weapons like the Japanese did. When it comes to the katana, it's designed to your body, okay? The handle, the blade, it's designed for your body type, so you can draw it quickly. That's why on average now, the blade length is 27.5 to 28 inches, because on average now, especially on males, on average, I'm not saying it's the norm across the board, that's how long your arm is. Okay? I've always told people this. If you want to have a katana made to your specs, measure from your middle finger to your shoulder. That's your blade. Handle length, measure from your wrist to your elbow. That should be your handle. From here to here should be your handle. Mine's 11. I can do 11.5. And it will work very effectively for you. Okay? So, to be able to, and that was another thing he pointed out, you know, everyone gets too hung up on what is the best cutting performance, which a lot of people do. When you use a katana, cutting isn't just the main priority or emphasis. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that. To be able to draw the katana is so crucial and so important, because that's going to determine if you're trying to learn Iaido or any other form of Kenjutsu, it is so crucial to your attack or your defense, how you draw the sword. So, yeah, I could draw the sword straight out and take a defense, or I could draw it out for an attack. But that's the beauty of it. Like even Skullgrim points out, it's in an obi belt. I can move this any way I want, and I can use it as a defense, like he showed. You know, he used it to basically like hit somebody in the face, and then take it out and attack them. You can do that. The style that I learned, we do have something similar. Basically punch somebody and you're like punching them in the stomach, but you don't move the sword. This is where I've said this in previous videos, learn to use that hip, because you punch them, it doesn't move, it just stays there. This hand comes right here, and then you pull it out and then you cut them. So that is a very, you know, important factor. Being able to move your body the way you need to make it, to manipulate it, is so important. Your hips, your feet, and that's another thing. Like, and Skullgrim says he doesn't know too much about it, which is fine. I'm not an expert neither. I'm still a student. I know very little about European fighting though. But that's the nice thing about a katana. When you go for an attack, you don't have to draw it this way all the time. You don't need to. Turn the saya. So basically turn it sideways so you can make a sideways cut. It's a lot quicker Because, yeah, I could draw a sword this way, but then I have to still do that. But if I turn this side this way, my blade's already going in the direction I need to do for the cut. Same for undercuts. So I want to stop an opponent from drawing their weapon. I can turn this all the way upside down and make an undercut. Is it going to be a really powerful cut? Probably not. But in a lot of Japanese swordsmanship, you're targeting the hand a lot too. The hand, the fingers, the forearm, because you're trying to stop your opponent from drawing their sword. After the sword is drawn out, that's a whole different story. Because that's mainly what Iaido focuses on. Drawing the sword and attacking real quick, putting the sword back. Is to keep you prepared for the unexpected. That's what it does. When it comes to already your sword being out, well, that's a whole different game. You basically, whatever your opponent is doing, you have to do it fast enough. If they're coming from a downward attack, obviously you want to block high. If they're coming from low, you want to block low. And then hopefully you can find an in and attack them. That's all by just being able to duel with another person to get that down. So that's why Iaido just focuses on the draw and the attack, or the draw and the defense. Because after that, it's just you got to do it. You know, with other opponents, you have to be able to learn how to defend and attack. Like I said before, I learned a lot of that back when I was in college, taking European fencing. So some of that I still remember. It's just you got to build up that speed again. But being able to draw this sword and do it quickly is so crucial. And that's what separates the Uchi Katana from other swords, is the way it's set up in you, the way you carry it. Because the handle sits here, and then you have your wakizashi right here. Okay, so you have two swords. Now, a lot of people, they practice with one sword. I like to use two, especially my Otanto, because it only has a 6-inch handle. So it sits perfectly. You don't have this sticking out here. But that's another thing to get used to. I mean, some people are like, how do you do it? And I've said this before. Just put your hand down there. Pushes it right out of the way. It's not a big deal. But if you're more comfortable doing it without it, you can get rid of it. Don't have to have it. You know. Unless your school requires you to wear two swords. Style I learned, it's required to wear both. So. But for the most part, yeah, it is a very effective way of drawing a sword, in my opinion. When you've got a sword hanging off of you right here, yeah, it's going to be, there's not really, because most of them sit at a 45-degree angle that I've seen. So you have to draw it up and then out. Whereas with something like this, I can just draw it straight out towards you. This is the beauty of it. This is why it was so effective for them. Is it the most perfect setup? Probably not. Show me one sword setup that's absolutely perfect. That it doesn't exist. You know. Everyone has their own styles, which is fine. But like I said, I totally agree with what Scholar said, though. The way this is set up is so genius. You know, granted, during the feudal wars of Japan, they wore them on their side. You know, the tachi. but for good reason. They're on horseback. The sword was just a secondary backup, so it wasn't a primary weapon. It wasn't until after Sengoku period, hopefully I didn't slaughter that, to the Edo period is where they really emphasized wearing them like this, because there was no war, but it made it effective and efficient for them to draw these swords so fast. It's almost like the Wild West. But also the way it's set up too, when you really put your mind, you really put yourself in a swordsmanship perspective. The way this sits this way, if I draw this sword, but at the same time turn my body, it's working for me. Because like I said, you always want to turn your body. It makes it for a harder target to hit. Also, when you go to put it back, so now my handle's still sticking straight out towards if an enemy comes at me. So I'm still in that ready position and it comes out. That's what makes it so nice. But then when I stand back up, that's why the handle faces that way. Because as you draw the sword, you turn your body. So all moves in unison with you. But I just really appreciated Skallagrim's perspective on it. And like I said, I totally agree with him on it. Granted, I don't know a lot about European. Study more Japanese swords, but he even admits he doesn't know much, which is fine. In fact, I don't think he did bad at all at him on his moves. If he just worked on it, just like anything, he'd get really good. I think he's good at European, at HEMA, because he's done that more. It's a trade-off. But I always appreciate Skallagrim's perspective on things. I think he's really good at it. And he knows what he's talking about. Besides Matt Easton. Matt Easton's really good when he talks it up. So, that's all I have for you guys. Just thought I'd just expand on that. If you haven't seen that video that Skallagrim did, go over and check it out. I'll put a link to it in the description. And have a good one.